Preacher stops wedding at midnight. Shocking truth about the bride's dark secret revealed. The air was electric as the clock struck midnight in the small town of Maplewood. The church, draped in flickering candlelight, was packed. Friends and family sat in silent anticipation, eyes glued to the altar where the bride stood, decked out in a flowing white gown that shimmered with every breath she took. But there was something unsettling about the atmosphere. A tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. The preacher, a weathered man with deep lines etched into his face, looked uneasy. He cleared his throat, but before he could begin, a loud crash shattered the silence. Everyone turned. A gust of wind burst through the doors, sending papers swirling and blowing out a few candles. Gasps erupted, followed by murmurs that rippled through the crowd like a wave. The light flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows that danced across the bride's face. She looked pale, almost ghostly. Her hands trembled slightly, her eyes darting around, searching for something or someone. Suddenly, the preacher raised his hand, his voice booming over the confused whispers. "Stop! This wedding cannot go on." Gasps echoed again, louder this time. The tension thickened as he stepped forward, pointing a shaking finger right at the bride. "You have a dark secret. One that can rip apart everything you hold dear." The crowd shifted uncomfortably, some exchanging shocked glances. What could this man possibly know? As the air became charged with discomfort, whispers morphed into frantic discussions. What was the preacher implying? The bride's face flushed, shadows of fear playing across her features. For a moment it seemed like the world had stopped. What was her secret? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, the bride opened her mouth, but no words came out. The preacher continued, "You can't hide from the past. And tonight, it's catching up with you." Her hands clutched her gown, knuckles white. A chilling silence took hold of the room, the kind that makes your heart race and your breath hitch. What had she done? What was her past? The congregation gasped audibly as the tension reached its peak. All eyes fixed on the bride, who was now visibly sweating, her eyes darting around in a panic. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, a sudden stillness fell over the crowd, leaving a sinister whisper. Where would this wedding go now? What truth was waiting to be uncovered? What dark secret loomed behind the veil? The air hung heavy with anticipation. All eyes remained locked on the bride, who seemed to shrink further into her gown. Her heart raced like a trapped bird in her chest, and for a fleeting moment, she could almost hear its desperate thudding above the whispered chaos. Choices made long ago clawed at her, desperate to escape the prison of her mind. "Claire," a voice called out from the back of the church, slicing through the thick tension. It was her brother, Ethan. He stood, concern etched on his face, confusion swirling in his brown eyes. The crowd turned, murmurs escalating into shouts, as curiosity and worry battled for dominance. "Tell them the truth." Claire's stomach twisted painfully. Her secret threaded through her past like a dark shadow, always lurking, always hungry. Memories flashed before her eyes, days filled with laughter now tainted with regret. How could she dare drag them all into her mess? "Ethan, don't," she cried, desperation pouring from her lips. "Please." The preacher's voice became thunderous again. "You can't protect her from the consequences. Boy, the truth must come to light." He stepped closer, his weathered face casting a foreboding silhouette against the flickering candles. There was no hiding now. It was as if every secret she had fought to keep hidden was clawing its way to the surface, demanding to be known. The congregation shifted restlessly, each individual processing the shock in their own way. Claire's heart sank as she caught glimpses of disappointment, shock, and pity etched on faces she once held dear. Her skin prickled with the weight of their judgment. A few neighbors clutched each other tightly, as if seeking comfort from the impending storm. "Is it true?" A voice yelled from the front, cutting through the cacophony of whispers. "What is going on, Claire?" Her breath quickened. She felt like a deer caught in headlights. The seconds stretched like hours, and the flickering light danced devilishly, amplifying her shame. She wanted to scream, to run away, but instead, the words spilled out of her. "I am not who you all think I am." Gasps echoed louder now, the sound swelling like a tidal wave about to crash. Claire could see the horror dawning across her mother's face. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Her mother's voice trembled, the concern palpable. "Just tell us, Claire, what's the secret?" shouted Ethan, raw emotion laid bare on his face, eyes pleading. With trembling hands, Claire gripped the edge of the altar. "For years ago I was in a different life, a life filled with darkness. I was involved in something terrible." Her voice broke, the weight of her confession almost too much to bear. "There was an accident. Someone got hurt, badly. I ran. I thought if I left it all behind, it would be over." The silence that enveloped the church was suffocating. You could hear the sound of a pin drop. The congregation reeled back, grappling with the magnitude of her admission. Shock morphed into disbelief, and with every exchange of glances, Claire could sense the unraveling of her carefully curated reality. "Claire." Her mother gasped, a hand covering her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. And then it hit. A stranger appeared in the doorway, footsteps echoes breaking the silence like thunder. Claire's heart dropped into her stomach. The familiar face, one she had hoped never to see again. The man stepped forward, his features sharpening as he approached. "You can't hide from the truth, Claire. Not anymore." The room felt like it was spinning out of control. Every person turned to face her, and she knew this was far from over. As the stranger moved closer, his presence darkened the door like a storm cloud, the tension curling around Claire's throat, rendering her breathless. What did he mean? What had he come for? The truth was no longer waiting in the shadows. It was here, and it promised to blow everything apart. "Claire." The man's voice boomed, deep and echoing in the vastness of the church. It cut through the hushed gasps and frightened murmurs. Her skin crawled under the collective weight of judgment that suffocated the air around her. She felt like she was frozen, her limbs heavy and unresponsive despite the chaos swirling around her. "What do you want?" Claire's voice trembled, barely above a whisper, yet it rang out in the stillness. Fear clawed at her throat, making every word feel like a struggle. She wished she could shrink away, become invisible. The stranger halted a few feet in front of her, eyes glinting with a mix of menace and determination. "You know exactly what I want, Claire. You can't escape it. Not anymore." A low murmur ran through the crowd, each face a canvas of disbelief, horror, and a burning curiosity. Ethan stepped forward, shielding his sister with instinctive protectiveness. "Stay away from her. You have no right to be here." His voice trembled even as it thundered, creating a shaky barrier between Claire and the intruder. "I have every right," he shot back, shadowing Claire with the weight of his presence. "I was there. I saw it happen. You think you could just walk away? You think you could just start over like it didn't happen?" Claire's heart raced, each beat echoing the memories that she had fought so hard to bury. Feelings of guilt, of shame, poured over her like icy rain. The congregation, now wrapped in a collective shroud of suspense, leaned forward, desperate for the truth. "Please," she whimpered, her voice cracking. "Not here. Not now." The stranger's jaw tightened, but something flickered in his eyes, pity or perhaps regret. "You think you can silence me? You can't. Not after what I know." He paused, letting the words hang in the tension-filled air. "Tell them, Claire, or I will." A gasp erupted from the crowd, the chill that ran down Claire's spine amplified by her brother's shocked expression. "What the hell is going on? Claire, you've been lying to us?" I didn't lie. I just tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. I was trying to protect everyone. The preacher, who had been standing by with clenched fists, took a steadying breath, riling the congregation up again. This is exactly what I meant. Secrets fester and poison everything they touch. Claire, it's time you face what you've done. Claire's mind raced. What had been a day of celebration crumbled around her. The walls of her world were closing in. Her heart sank as memories of that terrible night flashed before her eyes. The sirens, the screams, the blood. It didn't matter that she had run away. It haunted her still. I can't do this, she gasped, backing away from the altar, her world tilting dangerously. Your past is screaming for attention. Claire, the stranger took a step forward. You can't outrun the consequences. You owe it to them, to everyone you loved who trusted you. Claire's pulse raced. In the depths of her heart, she knew he was right. The truth was a beast she tried to cage, and now it broke loose. A wave of emotion crashed upon her. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone she loved, their pain tied to the choices she had made. In that moment of clarity, she could feel the air crackling with energy, anticipation. I'll tell them, she said, voice steadying, surprising even herself. But you need to leave. I'll handle this. The stranger's eyes flickered with something surprise. Respect? You do what you must, but time is running out, Claire. I'm not the only one looking for answers. The urgency of his words sank into her bones. Claire turned back to the crowd, their faces blending into a sea of expectation and despair. How would they react? And then came the chilling thought. Who else was out there? Who else would come for her? With her heart thundering, she whispered the words that might shatter the very fabric of her life. Okay, here it goes. What had she kept hidden all these years? And might the truth finally set her free or utterly destroy her? Claire's breath hitched in her throat, the weight of the moment bearing down on her like the ceilings of the church. She felt the heat of the crowd against her back, 1,000 eyes boring into her soul, waiting for her to unravel with each passing second. The world narrowed to just her and the stranger. You're right. I can't escape it, she whispered, tears spilling over. But it was never just my secret. Ethan's eyes widened, and panic climbed his features. What are you talking about, Claire? He looked from her to the stranger and back, struggling to comprehend the storm brewing before them. The stranger stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. You need to tell them about that night. You owe it to the ones who didn't survive. The ones who trusted you. The murmur in the crowd intensified, a tide of confusion and fear. Claire's heart raced. Silence fell like a heavy curtain, hanging in the air for what felt like an eternity. Every heartbeat echoed her dread. Fine, she gasped, releasing a shuddering breath. But you have to promise to let me finish. No interruptions. You'll hear it all. The stranger nodded, his eyes fierce yet watchful. I'll let you speak. But open your heart, Claire. They deserve the truth. Finding her resolve, Claire took a shaky step forward. Started that night at the party. Flashbacks surged, images colliding. Laughter, music blasting, and the way the alcohol blurred every edge of her memory. I thought it was just going to be fun, a night to escape everything. But then things got out of control. Her voice quaked, the contagion of her fear spreading through the congregation. Even in the quiet, she could sense their fear mingling with a morbid curiosity. That girl, she was just trying to help me, but I pushed her away. I thought I'd handle him myself because I had to be strong, right? That's what everyone expected from me. Someone in the crowd gasped, and she saw heads spinning in disbelief. What are you saying? Someone shouted, their voice slicing through Claire's confession. Just listen, Claire pleaded, tears visible now. When the fight broke out, something snapped in me. I thought it would end there, but it didn't. She choked. Someone got hurt badly. I didn't call for help. I just ran. The crowd shifted. A palpable wave of horror and realization interconnected around her. She needed to finish. No one knew what happened that night, but I live it every day. The guilt consumes me. A reluctant silence enveloped the building, each person mulling over their own thoughts, memories, and judgments. But Claire wasn't done. The girl, the one I pushed away, she died alone. I found out later, but it was too late. Couldn't fix it. I couldn't tell anyone. So I ran. The preacher, eyes blazing, stepped forward. Claire, this is heavy. Burdens don't ease just by saying it. Just then, the stranger's voice cut through once more. But this isn't just about you anymore. The truth will lead to the real answers. You think you're free? It will find you, Claire. A chill ran down her spine. What did he mean by that? Was something more sinister waiting in the shadows of her admission? Who else knows? Ethan's voice was harsh, laced with betrayal. What else didn't you tell us? She faltered, looking into the faces of everyone she loved. Claire felt the truth borne like a heavy anchor. As the doors behind the altar creaked, a new figure appeared, shrouded in mystery, cloaked in darkness. The collective gasp that swept through the congregation held a note of finality. Claire, the shadowed figure intoned, their voice a ghostly echo. You weren't supposed to leave it like this. We have unfinished business and you will pay for your silence. As the air crackled with tension, Claire's gaze spiraled from the figure back to Ethan, panic overtaking her senses. What had she dragged herself and everyone she loved into? The truth now felt more like a noose than a lifeline. And just beyond the open church doors lay the weight of her choices, unraveling one terrible thread at a time. The figure stepped closer, the dim light casting long shadows that stretched across the church floor like fingers reaching for salvation. Claire's heart pounded in her chest, every thump a reminder of how she had failed so many. Gasps echoed around her, a chorus of disbelief punctuating the air. Who are you? She forced her voice to steady, though it trembled like the flickering candles perched on the altar. I'm the ghost of your past, Claire, the figure replied, their eyes boring into her with an intensity that whipped the congregation's murmurs into a frenzy. You think your silence protects you? It only ensures that the truth festers. Ethan's expression darkened, confusion morphing into anger. Stay away from her, he shouted, stepping forward, as if to shield Claire from whatever hell lay ahead. Every lie you tell transforms into a debt you owe. Claire, you can't buy forgiveness with silence. The figure's voice sliced through the gathering, sharp and unforgiving. You took their voices. Now it's time to give yours back. The air around Claire tightened. What do you mean? She whispered, the chill of his words freezing her breath. The girl you pushed away. She knew more than you thought. And now, she's not the only one watching you, the figure continued, eyes narrowing. There are others who see you, condemned by your own choices. A wave of nausea crashed over her as fragments of that night reared up from the shadows of her memory. The laughter, the music, the chaos. She could still hear the screams echoing in her ears. I didn't she stammered, but the words caught like thorns in her throat. You didn't want to see. The figure advanced, drawing the crowd's attention, piercing through their shocked silence. You turned away when you should have fought for her. And now they will come for you. You can't run from your past. Claire felt the walls closing in, the congregation's eyes piercing through her like arrows. There was no escape. The weight of her guilt bore down on her, suffocating. Ethan looked back at the stranger, uncertainty warring with protectiveness. This isn't the time for theatrics. But the figure only laughed a low, chilling sound. Oh, but it is. The clocks have struck midnight, and the truth can't be held back any longer. Then, as if summoned by an invisible force, the church doors flung open. A cold gust of wind swept through the building, spinning the candle flames into a frenzy. Shadows danced wildly as an icy presence filled the room. Claire. A voice cried from the darkness, sharp and familiar. Footsteps echoed, and Claire turned, her heart leaping into her throat. There, silhouetted in the doorway, was someone she hadn't seen in years. A face twisted by time, fear, and longing. A figure that should have remained buried beneath that night's tragedy. A chill ran down her spine, a realization that screamed louder than the collective gasp of the crowd. Are you ready to face what you've buried? The newcomer stepped into the light, revealing a face Claire thought she would never see again. Jess. Claire gasped. The name hung in the air, heavy with memories of laughter, betrayal, and blood-stained guilt. She hadn't just lost a friend. She had lost a part of herself. Surprise, Claire. You left me to die, Jess said, her voice both a whisper and a roar, sending tremors through Clara's soul. Are you ready to talk? The congregation was silent, each person caught in the thrall of emotion, straining to catch every word exchanged in that electrifying moment. Clara's mouth felt dry, her chest tight. How could she possibly explain? How could she confront the ghosts of that night? She stuttered, the weight of her secret feeling sharper than ever before. Time us up, Jess said, stepping forward, flames of anger flickering in her eyes. You have so much to tell and so much to answer for. With the eyes of the whole congregation on her, Claire understood that her reckoning had just begun. The truth, buried for so long, was clawing its way to the surface, and there was no hiding anymore. She could run no longer. What would unleash? When she finally confessed everything, could any amount of truth free her, or would it bind her tighter? Claire faced the storm brewing within her, knowing that the revelations would shake them all to their core. Claire's mind spun, a whirlwind of memories and regret. As Jess stepped closer, the congregation remained motionless, eyes locked on the two women as if witnessing a scene from the darkest part of their own stories. Emotion rippled through the crowd. Disbelief, sympathy, and horror collided in a shared intake of breath. Please, Jess, Claire whispered, desperation flooding her voice. Just let it go. We can forget. But Jess shook her head vehemently, hair whipping around her face like a tempest. Forget? After all this time? After what you did? Her tone dripped with disbelief, each word striking Claire like a blow. How can you even suggest that? I didn't. Claire fumbled with her words, her heart racing. The truth loomed tall and heavy like a storm cloud above her. I didn't know it would go so wrong. I didn't think exactly. Jess cut in, the ferocity of her voice echoing through the church, silencing the whispers. You didn't think. You chose to turn your back on me, on all of us. And now the past has come back for you. The church was suffocating, air thick with tension and the oppressive weight of judgment. Claire's skin prickled under the scrutinizing gaze of the congregation. This was no longer just about her and Jess. This was about everything she had hidden, everything she had tried to bury. Ethan, still standing protectively beside Claire, turned back to Jess, frustration contorting his features. Maybe it's time to let the past stay in the past. We've all made mistakes. But Jess shot him a glare that was icy steel. Mistakes? This isn't just a mistake. This is a crime. Claire has to face what she has done. You can't shield her from this. A flicker of understanding ignited in the crowd. Murmurs rippled through the church like wildfire. What did she do? A voice rose above the rest, heavy with disbelief. What does she mean? Claire's heart raced as Jess took another step toward her, the congregation leaning in as if drawn to an unfolding tragedy. Tell them, Claire. Tell them what really happened that night. No, Claire cried, her voice cracking like glass. I can't. I'm not ready. Ready or not, here it comes. Jess's eyes blazed with an intensity that screamed of betrayal and pain, a pain that mirrored Claire's own, though Claire had buried hers deep under layers of shame. Claire glanced to Ethan, whose face wore a mask of confusion and concern. You don't understand. It was never supposed to happen. I thought. She paused as the weight of her hesitation pressed down on her. I didn't think I would lose her. But you did. Jess shouted, tears streaming down her face. You let fear take control, and it cost me everything. Look around, Claire. They deserve to know why you've been living like this. The truth was a heavy stone sitting in Claire's stomach. A confession was ready to burst free but encased in chains of guilt and fear. Could she face the eyes of those she had let down? Could she bear the weight of unveiling her darkest moment? Just then, the church doors swung open again, this time revealing an ominous silhouette. The newcomer stepped into the flickering light, the flames casting dancing shadows across the wall. Strikingly familiar. Another name waited to be revealed, another ghost from her past. Claire. The new arrival echoed, voice like thunder rolling over a tense sea. We need to talk too. There are things you haven't shared. Things that will change everything. Claire's chest tightened. As if the world around her had paused. She felt the creeping dread snake up her spine. Just when she thought she might unearth her past, a new layer of mystery emerged, clawing at her from the edges of the night. What more lay ahead? Ready to unravel her shattered truth. The clock was ticking, and it was well past time to face the echoes of her actions. The new arrival took another step forward, the light catching on a familiar face that sent shivers down Claire's spine. It was Sarah, Jess's sister. The very figure Claire had tried to forget. A silhouette of sorrow that now stood firm, resurrected by the weight of the moment. Why now, Sarah? Claire's voice trembled. Barely a whisper. She felt herself drowning in memories. The laughter, the promises, the bittersweet days when their lives had been perfectly intertwined. I'm here because you owe Jess, and me, and everyone gathered here, the truth, Sarah declared. Her gaze cut through the tension like a knife. The icy edge of her words seeped into the air, making Claire shiver. You can't hide anymore. Jess looked between them, a storm of emotions dancing across her face. You think you can just walk in here and enough? Sarah's voice rang out, silencing the church once more. You both think this is just about the night she lost you? It goes deeper. Claire, you made a choice that changed everything. Claire's heart raced. Everything was slipping through her fingers, like sand through an hourglass. Was she really ready to face the truth? She thought of the warmth she'd felt with her friends, the moments they shared, now overshadowed by this huge shadow looming over her life. Sarah, please, can't you see this isn't the time? Claire's voice cracked as beads of sweat trickled down her temples. You don't understand what happened. No, Claire, Sarah said, stepping into the light completely, her eyes fierce with determination. You don't understand. We all have to face our demons. You think what you did was justified? That it was an accident? The congregation was on the verge of a collective gasp, faces a mix of horror and intrigue, clinging to every syllable. They were witness to a raw, exposed moment that felt as ancient as time itself. It was an accident, Claire insisted, desperation spilling from her voice. She wanted to tell them everything, but the words felt like molten lava, ready to erupt into flames. How can you not see that? Because you left us with the pieces. Jess erupted, pointing a shaking finger. Your choices left a wake of destruction in their path, and you ran. Ran? Claire echoed, her breath hitching. The weight of Jess's words crashed down on her like a tidal wave. I stayed, I did everything I could. Everything. Jess shouted, defeated rage coating her tone. You betrayed us. You chose yourself over your friends. Over me. Claire felt a darkness encircle her. An undeniable truth in Jess's accusation. Perhaps she had been selfish, blinded by her own fear and guilt. She glanced at Ethan, who still looked on, confusion etched on his face, not grasping the true depth of the situation. Sarah, if I could take it back, Claire began. But the bitter resolution in Sarah's eyes stopped her short. There's no taking it back, Claire. You can't rewrite history. All you can do is face it. Sarah's declaration settled over them like heavy rain. Tonight is your reckoning. Suddenly, the church doors burst open again, and another figure appeared, silhouetted by the moonlight. This newcomer's identity submerged Claire deeper in dread. An avatar of secrets long buried was now stepping forth. Claire, the figure said, voice low and foreboding. The truth must come out tonight. You can't hide any longer. Claire's heart thundered in her chest, panic clawing at her instincts. What else could possibly come to the surface? This was spiraling further out of control, and yet, there seemed to be a horrible need for all of it to be revealed. What lay behind the shadows of her past? And would she finally find the courage to confront it all? As uncertainty gripped her, the air thickened with expectation, and Claire understood the profound implications of what might follow. The tension in the church thickened. Each breath felt heavy as Claire stared into the darkened silhouette. It stepped forward, catching the light, revealing a face that had haunted her nights. It was Tom, her former lover. The one person who knew all her secrets, the good and the terrible. "What are you doing here?" Claire's voice cracked, as if she could barely form the words. A gasp traveled through the congregation, all eyes now fixed on this new specter of her past. "I came to remind you, Claire," Tom said, a chilling calmness in his tone. "You can't escape what happened. Not anymore." Jess's face twisted in confusion. She shot Claire a questioning glance, trying to mask her shock. "You know him?" "Know him?" He was everything, Claire muttered, each word less an explanation and more an admission of guilt. "I was everything until you chose your path," Tom interrupted, stepping closer, his voice rising with each syllable. "We had dreams, Claire, but the night it mattered most you turned your back. You lied to me, you lied to everyone." Silence wrapped around them, like a cloak that threatened to smother. The faces in the pews were a medley of disbelief and curiosity, each person struggling to find their footing in this unexpected storm. Claire felt their collective gaze, intense and invasive, as if Judgment Day had arrived. "Tom, please." Claire's heart pounded fiercely, as anxiety clawed at her throat. "It was a mistake. I thought what?" he challenged, leaning closer until Claire could smell the faint hint of cigarettes on his breath. "That running away would erase everything?" "Stop," Jess shouted, her voice rising above the thickening tension. "You're not going to drag her into this again." The desperation in her tone was laced with fear, as if she caught wind of the unraveling fabric of Claire's life. Tom turned to Jess, amusement flickering in his eyes. "Oh, sweet Jess, you're defending someone who abandoned you both." Claire felt the heat of shame wash over her. Memories surfaced like echoes, moments that felt like a lifetime away. She had wanted to find freedom, but instead, she had only found emptiness. "Claire, face it. You've avoided this confrontation all your life," Tom pressed on. "Just like you avoided the truth about what happened the night Jess lost everything." Claire clenched her fists, heart racing. Each word pierced her, opening wounds she thought had healed. "I didn't mean for anything to happen like that. No? Just like you didn't mean to wreck our dreams? To wreck Jess's?" he snapped, his voice now a bitter blade slicing through her facade. As he stood there, the crowd held its breath, a mixture of expectation and dread in the air. "Maybe you both deserve to hear it all." The new arrival, Sarah, stepped in closer, embracing the storm with an eerie calmness. "Claire went through hell that night, but we all paid the price for her running away." Claire felt the dam inside her begin to fracture. "You think I wanted this? Do you think I chose this pain?" The tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had always been the strong one, poised. She wouldn't break now. "What if I told you that truth has a price?" Tom challenged, his voice dropping to a whisper that echoed in the silence, suspense flickering between them like electricity. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the back, disrupting the moment. The church doors burst open again, sending an icy breeze rushing through the building, and all heads turned. A figure stood there, cloaked in shadows, a presence that felt almost otherworldly. "You're all wrong, Tom," the new arrival declared, stepping into the light, revealing a face that Claire recognized instantly but had hoped never to see again. "Everyone deserves the truth tonight," the figure said, their voice echoing with authority. "And Claire, it's time to unveil your past, once and for all." Claire's heart sank. Who was this new conduit of her tangled history? What fresh chaos would they bring? As the weight of the moment pressed down, a familiar dread rose within her, and she felt tears threatening to spill over. She was standing on the edge. What horrors would emerge from the depths of her past, clawing to the surface? Would she ever be free of the shadows of guilt and loss? The figure stepped fully into the church's light, and Claire's heart raced as recognition washed over her like a cold wave. It was Sarah, Her former friend, one she had betrayed so thoroughly that night, the missing piece of the puzzle she thought was buried forever. Sarah Claire whispered, the name heavy on her tongue. It felt like a forgotten dream brought back to life, one that seeped with shadows and half-truths. Tom's expression shifted, a glimmer of confusion flickering in his haunted eyes. You? What are you doing here? Finishing what you started, Sarah replied, her voice steady yet laced with venom. You can't keep hiding, Claire. Not while others suffer because of your decisions. The congregation murmured, their faces painted with varying shades of shock and intrigue. They leaned in, eager to catch every word, as if they were watching a drama unfold, each revelation a fresh wound. Claire, you ran, Tom said, bitterness curling his lips. You ran from all of us, and now look where we are. Everyone deserves to know. You think you're the only one who paid for that night? Sarah snapped back, her gaze sharp and unwavering. What about Jess? What do you think she's been through? Claire felt the weight of their words heavy on her chest. Jess stood from her seat, clenching her fists, her feet shifting uncomfortably. What happened that night? I thought we were past this. I can't do this again. Neither can I, Claire said, her voice breaking as she fought against the tide of bitter memories crashing around her. I never wanted this pain for any of us. But Sarah stepped forward, relentless. You've spent too long avoiding the truth. Those of us who were there deserve to tell our stories, too. I can't let you forget. This isn't right, Claire pleaded, feeling the walls of the church close in on her. The old wood creaked as if echoing her turmoil. You don't even know the whole story. Oh, I know enough, Sarah interjected. More than you think. And soon everyone will know. Claire felt her pulse quicken, panic flooding her senses. No, you can't. This isn't how it's supposed to be. We were meant to move on, but it was too late. Sarah's eyes blazed with fury fueled by betrayal. You think you can just erase what you've done? The lies? The pain? Her voice rang out, cutting through the air like glass shattering. The crowd's murmurs intensified, a wave of judgment swirling around them. Claire could feel their eyes digging into her, extracting secrets she had buried deep. Dread pooled in her stomach like lead. Enough! Jess shouted, moving to stand between Claire and Sarah, her face a mask of desperation. We can't do this. Not here. Not now. But Sarah lifted her chin defiantly, arms folded. They deserve the truth as much as I do. And Claire, you can't run from this forever. Claire stepped back, her mind racing, paint peeling off wooden pews reflecting her unsettled heart. Tell me, Claire, Sarah taunted, voice dripping with disdain. Are you willing to finally face your past? Or will you keep hiding behind your pretty lies? The question hung ominously above them. No one willing to blink, to breathe even. The air crackled with suspense. What truths lay buried beneath the weight of their shared history? Could Claire endure the revelations? Would the foundations of her carefully curated world crumble? Or could she reclaim her narrative from the ashes? As the tension peaked, a distant rumble echoed outside, a warning of the storm brewing. The truth was coming, and Claire had no way to stop it. What was Sarah really willing to expose? How far might it go to unravel everything Claire had tried to rebuild? Claire was frozen, suspended between the unbearable weight of the moment and the impending chaos that loomed just beyond the church doors. As murmurs escalated into a cacophony, her anxiety swirled violently, but deep within her, something began to shift. Everyone deserves the truth. The voice of the dark figure pierced through the noise. It was an echo from the shadows, a reminder that avoidance would no longer shield her from the inevitable reckoning. Claire. Jess's voice was trembling, raw with emotion. You can't just let them think you're blameless. You need to step into the light and face this. The expectation hung heavily in the air, and suddenly, Claire felt a fierce surge of determination. She stepped away from Ethan, away from the security of his outstretched arm. No more running, she whispered, though she barely heard herself over the tumult around her. Everyone, please listen, Claire shouted, her voice quaking but firm enough to draw the congregation's attention back. I need to take responsibility for what I did. But I also need to tell my side the truth about that night. Ethan looked at her with wide, frightened eyes, but Claire steadied herself against the altar, breathing deeply as she pushed back the moisture threatening to jostle free from her eyes. She could feel the heat of judgment and curiosity combined, but she was ready to let it spill. I was scared. We were all scared, but I was terrified. I thought that if I distanced myself, if I couldn't see it, I could somehow unwrite the nightmare. It became her voice faltered as emotions washed over her. The fight, the screaming, and then I ran. I thought I would protect us all by disappearing. But that night didn't just vanish. Calm murmurs grew into gasps, as each person strained to comprehend the magnitude of her admission. You might think you understand what happened that night, but the truth is heavier and stickier than I thought. Claire cast her gaze across the congregation, drinking in their varied expressions of shock, pity, and horror. Jess didn't deserve what happened to her, and neither did you, Sarah. I was too wrapped up in my own fears to see how my actions hurt you both. Then face it, Jess interjected, her voice breaking the tension. It's time to confront the people we've all been running from. The words hung heavy in the air. Claire took a breath and nodded, steeling herself. There are deeper layers to the truth that have always been hidden away. Suddenly Claire locked eyes with the dark figure, the ghost of her past. I never thought I'd see you again, she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. I didn't just come for you, the figure replied, a mix of sadness and determination in their expression. You need to tell them what's been living with you. The others are more than just shadows, they're tied to this story, connected in ways you can't keep holding back. Claire swallowed hard, every ounce of fear seemingly trapped in her throat. I never wanted to hurt anyone, but that night wasn't just about me running away just then. A voice called out from the back of the congregation, echoing in the chaos. Are we going to let her hide? We deserve to know. The energy of the room shifted, a charge of collective pressure, the crowd eager to uncover the long-buried secret. A sigh slipped from Claire's lips as she felt the very point of release draw closer. I didn't just ignore Jess that night. Claire took a shaky breath, heart racing. The raw truth began peeling back layers like parchment paper. I caused the accident. I let pride and fear push me into silence. And because of that, Jess lost her life. Jess, I am so sorry. You were my best friend, and I will carry that guilt forever, but I have to tell them. Silence smothered the church once more, reverberating with the weight of her confession. Claire felt the eyes of everyone she loved burning into her, each judgment landing like stones against her skin. But then, in that charged silence, something shifted. A wave of understanding washed over Jess's face, and for a heartbeat, Claire held her breath, waiting for the storm to unleash. You were scared, Jess finally spoke quietly. It didn't excuse it, but it made you human. Vulnerability flickered in Jess's eyes, and she stepped closer. And I forgive you, Claire. Gasps erupted through the audience, disbelief mingling with cautious hope. Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain, but it lightens the burden, Sarah added, voice trembling with raw emotion. Even though I'm still hurt and that's real, we can't hold onto the darkness forever. Claire's heart surged as she felt an unexpected release. The weight of her choices had chained her for so long, but now the bind of guilt felt lighter, the shackles loosening with the validation of truth. The figure standing near the door nodded solemnly, as if that distant storm on the horizon had already begun to dissipate. With a final gaze that held compassion, they stepped back into the shadows, leaving Claire with a flicker of fleeting hope as the crowd absorbed this wave of emotion. Each silent face spoke a million words of understanding. For the first time, Claire felt that maybe they could reconnect and begin to rebuild, not just for themselves, but to honor those they had lost. I'll keep sharing my truth, Claire professed, standing firm and unyielding. I'll face my past, and I'll own my mistakes. I'll do whatever it takes to heal. The congregation began to stir, tentative glimpses of acceptance creeping in as she glanced toward Jess, Sarah, and the crowd. With each nod of understanding, it felt as if the air cleared, finally releasing the chains of regret that had strung her life into torment for years. Claire knew the road wouldn't be easy and that each layer of her truth had its own tumultuous weight, but for the first time, she felt free enough to take the step forward as the night drew to a close. The candlelight flickering down to a soft glow, she realized they could all walk towards the light. Now it was time to embrace their future together, and with closure finally at hand, Claire took a deep breath, feeling the dawn of possibility breaking through the darkness. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on future stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our shared journey. Flood the comments section with your thoughts on this conclusion. What did you think? How did Claire's story touch you? Let us talk. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic finale. Your support means everything to us, and together we can keep this community growing.